Welcome, Warhawks, to another seminal geometry math session. Today we got our 1.3 notes. We're today going to be discussing midpoints and bisectors. You're going to be able to determine a midpoint from a line segment on a coordinate plane, and you're going to need to know the midpoint formula. It's imperative that you memorize the midpoint formula, and please don't forget, all your notes are due tomorrow, must be handwritten first thing. All right, let's get started with this here. Definition of midpoint, it's a point that's exactly halfway between two given points of a segment on a coordinate plane. The big thing you need to know about a midpoint is it will cut a segment in half, or from a previous lesson, it will bisect a segment. Midpoint, we're going to find the midpoint of AB as you see here. This is a very easy problem because it's horizontal. They may give you ones that are vertical. Those are easy to do. Some of you will be smart enough to simply put your pencil on A and count over to B. It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 units long. Since that midpoint is 6 units long, it's easy to find the midpoint. It is simply 3 units away, so I'm going to count from A. 1, 2, 3. Here is where the midpoint would be, and that is at point 2, comma 2. And I'm sorry, I can't write really well with the mouse. A little bit slow when it comes to that. All right, so we all understand how to find the midpoint when the line is horizontal, but the line will not always be horizontal. Sometimes the line will look like this, where the where the segment is diagonal, and now you can't count the distance between, in this case, segment YZ. We are going to have to calculate it. In order to calculate it, we are going to use the midpoint formula. So here is the midpoint formula. Again, you must memorize this midpoint formula. Basically, it's an average of our x and y coordinates. You'll see here we have x1 plus x2 divided by 2. Sorry about that. Coach Aaron Greenwood from Sanford Basketball wants to talk to me. X1 represents the x coordinate of the first point. X2 represents the x coordinate of the second point. And then we'll find the average of our y coordinates. So basically, it's two formulas in one to write an ordered pair. Y1, y coordinate of the first point. Y2, y coordinate of the second point. I've given it over here a key for you saying what's the first and second point, just in case somebody gets lost. All right, so the first thing I need to do is I need to decide which one is going to be my first and second point. It does not matter if y or z is your first or second point. You and your neighbor don't have to have the same first point, but if you stay with the formula, you will get the right answer. So I am going to declare y as my first point. I count it over, -6 to the left. Up means it's +3, so y is at -6, 3. Next, I'm going to declare my second point, which is z. Z being my second point, I move to the left 2 units. I go down 3 units, so it's -2, comma, -3. Again, does not matter which is the first or second point. I am now going to plug these 2 points over here on the right-hand side into the midpoint formula. So let me get my markers ready. We're going to go green for little Warhawks here. I'm going to go ahead and plug in my x values first. So I know the y coordinate being my first point, x1 is -6. I am going to add that to my x coordinate for the z, which is -2, and -6 divided by -2 gives me a -8. Excuse me, hold on, I screwed that up, sorry. Let me erase that. We all make mistakes, right? I'm going to divide that by 2. We got to show work in mathematics, so I'm going to go ahead and show my work. Moving vertically down, showing my work here. -6 plus -2, I know is -8. And -8 divided by 2 gives me an answer of -4. So the midpoint of the x coordinate is -4. That's my first answer. I still have to find a second answer. I told you 2 equations in one. And I'm now going to find my y values. I'm going to go ahead and do that in orange. We'll keep it Warhawk friendly. So I'm going to do y1, which is the y coordinate of the first point being y is 3, plus y2, y coordinate of the second point, which my second point is z, its y coordinate is -3. And I'll divide that all by 2. 3 plus -3 gives me an answer of 0, and 0 divided by 2 gives me an answer of 0. So my midpoint is at -4, 0. It's roughly right about here. Again, midpoint formula must be memorized. Next, we're going to talk about the word bisect. I'm sorry I referred to that earlier, as we've already done that. We're now introducing to bisect something means to cut it in half, to cut it perfectly in half into two equal parts. There are many different types of bisectors. You can have an angle bisector. You can have a segment bisector. Today, we're only going to talk about segment bisectors. A segment bisector, by definition, a line segment, or array that divides a line segment into two line segments of equal measure or congruency. Let's take segment MP here. Segment MP has a length of 20. Let's say I draw a line right down the middle of MP. That looks like it's the middle, but I can't assume it's the middle. What if I told you, though, that this side was 10 and this side was 10? And we'll call this line L. I can now determine that line L is a segment bisector of MP. Very basic. You just need to know the definition. We'll later on incorporate some algebra with that. All right. That wraps up our lesson for section 1.3 on midpoints and bisectors. 3 things you should know. Memorize the midpoint formula. Get it done. It's pretty easy. It's an average of your x and y coordinates written as an ordered pair. 2, you need to know how to find the midpoint from a coordinate plane. That's a graph. And number 3, you must know the definition of bisect. Let's throw a little extra credit out to Coach Tipton's class. Anybody that goes up and gives Coach Tipton a high five before the late bell rings, he will give you 5 points extra credit on your next test. This is your boy, Coach Walker. Have a wonderful day.